Chapter 1. Why Systems Matter, the Foundation of Consistent Success. In this chapter, titled Why Systems Matter, the Foundation of Consistent Success, we explore why focusing on systems rather than goals creates sustainable progress, while emphasizing the psychological, behavioral, and structural advantages that systems provide in producing results reliably over time. Goals are often celebrated for providing clarity, motivation, and measurable targets, yet they frequently lead to frustration, burnout, or inconsistency when the desired outcome is distant, complex, or dependent on factors outside your control. Systems, in contrast, are the routines, habits, and processes that govern daily action, ensuring that every small step contributes to larger objectives, regardless of fluctuations in motivation, external circumstances, or unexpected setbacks. By shifting attention from outcomes to repeatable actions, listeners learn to cultivate a process-oriented mindset, where success is a natural byproduct of consistent practice rather than a distant, abstract milestone. The narrator emphasizes that systems are effective because they reduce reliance on willpower and motivation, which are inherently variable and unreliable over time. When habits and processes are designed thoughtfully, they become automatic, requiring minimal cognitive effort while producing predictable results. This automation allows energy and focus to be directed toward strategic adjustments, learning, and refinement of the system itself, rather than expending mental resources simply to initiate action. By embedding processes into daily routines, listeners can ensure that progress continues steadily, transforming consistency into a measurable advantage over time. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that goals, while useful for providing direction, can paradoxically undermine progress if they are treated as the primary driver of action. Fixating solely on the endpoint creates pressure, anxiety, and impatience, which often result in shortcuts, inconsistent effort, or premature abandonment of valuable practices. Systems, by contrast, focus on what can be controlled daily, the process, and thereby shift the locus of achievement from uncertain outcomes to reliable execution. Listeners are encouraged to define the behaviors and routines that underpin their desired results and treat adherence to these processes as the primary measure of success. Another key insight lies in the concept of compounding effects. Because consistent small actions accumulate over time to produce exponential results, systems leverage this principle by creating habits that reinforce progress incrementally, ensuring that each day contributes meaningfully to larger objectives, whether in personal development, professional productivity, or health and wellness. The cumulative impact of disciplined routines often surpasses the effects of sporadic bursts of effort focused solely on goal attainment. This perspective highlights that success is not a singular event but the outcome of sustained, structured action. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that systems provide both structure and flexibility, enabling consistent execution while allowing adaptation to evolving circumstances. By focusing on the process rather than the endpoint, listeners can maintain momentum even when progress toward specific goals is slow, obstacles arise, or external variables fluctuate. Systems create resilience, reduce stress, and reinforce a mindset in which daily actions, rather than distant outcomes, define performance, making it possible to remain motivated and engaged without relying on intermittent inspiration or fluctuating confidence. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the ability to design routines that support continuous improvement, produce measurable progress, and reduce the risk of burnout, procrastination, or failure. A process-oriented mindset strengthens discipline, reinforces accountability, and ensures that action is consistent, deliberate, and aligned with long-term objectives. Systems also provide clarity on where to focus effort, eliminating wasted energy on activities that do not contribute meaningfully to desired outcomes, and enabling a proactive rather than reactive approach to challenges. This chapter also highlights the relationship between systems and habit formation. Because well-designed processes naturally cultivate behaviors that reinforce success. By repeating structured actions, evaluating effectiveness, and refining routines over time, listeners can build durable habits that support continuous growth and reduce dependence on motivation or external pressure. The integration of habit science with system design ensures that progress becomes a predictable result of behavior, rather than a variable outcome of fluctuating effort. Finally, mastering the principles of systems equips listeners with the mindset and tools required to achieve consistent performance, measurable results, and long-term success. By prioritizing processes over goals, individuals shift focus from anxious anticipation of outcomes to deliberate action, creating an environment where growth, improvement, and achievement occur naturally and reliably. Systems, therefore, provide the foundation for a sustainable, resilient approach to success, transforming effort into results and ensuring that consistency becomes a defining feature of personal and professional accomplishment. Chapter 2. Designing Effective Systems, Structuring Routines for Consistent Results. In this chapter, titled Designing Effective Systems, Structuring Routines for Consistent Results, we explore how to create processes, habits, and routines that reliably produce outcomes while minimizing reliance on motivation, external pressure, or sheer willpower, and why thoughtful system design is essential for turning intention into consistent action. Effective systems begin with clarity about desired outcomes, because understanding what success looks like allows you to reverse engineer the processes necessary to achieve it. Rather than focusing on distant goals alone, listeners are encouraged to define the daily, weekly, and monthly actions that collectively produce measurable progress, ensuring that each step is purposeful, aligned, and actionable. By structuring routines with specificity and intention, small, repeated behaviors compound over time, creating momentum that drives consistent results. The narrator emphasizes that system design requires both simplicity and scalability, because overly complex processes are difficult to maintain, and overly rigid structures cannot adapt to changing circumstances. A well-designed system balances structure with flexibility, ensuring that actions are repeatable, measurable, and resilient to external fluctuations. Simplicity allows for easier habit formation, reduces cognitive load, and increases the likelihood of adherence, while scalability ensures that the system can grow with your evolving goals, maintaining effectiveness over the long term. Listeners are encouraged to focus on foundational processes that produce the highest impact relative to effort, establishing a reliable framework that drives continual improvement. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that processes should emphasize consistency over intensity, because sustainable progress is built through regular, deliberate action rather than occasional bursts of effort. Systems that prioritize small, manageable steps produce more lasting results than those relying on sporadic motivation, extreme discipline, or high-pressure deadlines. By embedding actions into daily routines and aligning them with triggers, environments, or cues, listeners can automate progress and reduce reliance on fluctuating energy, willpower, or inspiration. This approach ensures that results are predictable and continuous, rather than erratic or short-lived. Another key insight lies in monitoring, measuring, and iterating on systems, because even well-designed processes require evaluation and refinement to maintain effectiveness. By tracking performance, reviewing outcomes, and adjusting routines based on real-world feedback, listeners can optimize systems, eliminate inefficiencies, and continuously improve results. This iterative process ensures that systems remain aligned with objectives, adapt to changing circumstances, and strengthen the connection between action and outcome, reinforcing both consistency and confidence over time. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that systems are not static. They are dynamic frameworks that must evolve alongside goals, environments, and personal growth. By designing systems with adaptability, feedback loops, and clear performance indicators, listeners create processes that are both durable and responsive, enabling steady progress even in the face of challenges, interruptions, or uncertainty. This structure ensures that effort translates into results, minimizing wasted time and maximizing the return on consistent action. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the ability to structure routines, allocate energy effectively, and execute high-leverage actions without relying solely on motivation. Thoughtfully designed systems reduce decision fatigue, provide clarity on priorities, and create momentum that compounds over time, ensuring that small, deliberate efforts accumulate into meaningful achievement. The focus shifts from anxiety over outcomes to disciplined engagement in processes that are proven to produce results, transforming daily habits into reliable mechanisms for success. This chapter also highlights the role of accountability in system effectiveness, because routines and processes are reinforced when progress is tracked. Commitments are documented, and performance is reviewed regularly. Accountability mechanisms, whether through self-monitoring, peer support, or performance metrics, ensure adherence, highlight areas for improvement, and reinforce the importance of disciplined execution. These tools allow listeners to maintain consistency, recognize progress, and adjust systems proactively to maintain optimal results. Finally, mastering system design equips listeners with the knowledge, mindset, and tools to convert goals into actionable, repeatable, and measurable processes. By focusing on structuring effective systems, rather than obsessing over outcomes alone, individuals create a sustainable framework for growth, consistency, and long-term success. Well-designed systems turn effort into results predictably, automate progress, and enable a mindset in which success emerges naturally from disciplined, deliberate action. Chapter 3. Habit Formation. Reinforcing Systems Through Daily Practice. In this chapter, titled Habit Formation: Reinforcing Systems Through Daily Practice, we explore how habits function as the building blocks of systems, why consistent repetition is essential for embedding processes into daily life, and how leveraging behavioral principles ensures that systems become automatic, reliable, and resilient over time. Habits are the mechanism through which systems produce results consistently, because behaviors that are repeated in structured ways reduce the reliance on motivation or willpower. and transform intention into action with minimal conscious effort. Listeners are encouraged to focus on designing routines that integrate seamlessly into daily life, align with existing triggers, and produce incremental progress toward larger objectives, creating a compounding effect that drives measurable outcomes over time. The narrator emphasizes that habit formation requires both clarity and consistency, because ambiguous actions or sporadic routines fail to produce lasting behavior change. Clearly defining specific actions, their timing and context ensures that habits are repeatable and measurable, while consistency strengthens neural pathways that encode behaviors into automatic responses. Over time, these habits reinforce the larger system, ensuring that processes continue to function effectively even during periods of low motivation, stress, or external disruption. By anchoring habits to cues, routines, and feedback, listeners embed reliability and predictability into the structure of their systems. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that the quality of habits matters as much as their consistency, because habits that produce small, high-leverage outcomes accumulate to produce significant results over time. Listeners are encouraged to identify keystone behaviors, actions that have disproportionately positive effects on their systems, and prioritize them within daily routines. These high-impact habits serve as the foundation for broader system effectiveness, ensuring that effort is focused on activities that consistently move goals forward rather than dissipating energy on low-value tasks. Another key insight lies in the importance of reinforcement, because habits are strengthened when progress is tracked, feedback is acknowledged, and achievements are celebrated. Positive reinforcement, whether intrinsic or extrinsic, increases adherence and accelerates habit integration into daily life, while reflective practice ensures that behaviors remain aligned with strategic objectives. By incorporating accountability mechanisms, tracking outcomes, and periodically reviewing routines, listeners maintain momentum, adjust behaviors as necessary, and reinforce the neural patterns that sustain their systems. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that habits are the practical expression of systems, because consistent behavior is what produces results. Systems without embedded habits remain theoretical, relying on willpower and conscious effort that are prone to failure. By deliberately designing habits that align with system objectives, listeners create automaticity, reduce decision fatigue, and ensure that progress continues reliably, even during periods of distraction, stress, or fatigue. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the ability to translate strategic processes into daily routines that function with minimal conscious effort, producing consistent results and reinforcing the overall effectiveness of their systems. Habit formation creates a feedback loop in which consistent action strengthens both confidence and competence, further motivating adherence and improving performance over time. This integration of behavior and system design transforms effort into tangible results, ensuring that momentum is sustained without reliance on sporadic motivation or willpower alone. This chapter also highlights the role of small incremental improvements, because tiny, repeated actions compound over time to create significant long-term outcomes. Listeners are encouraged to focus on manageable, achievable behaviors that fit within existing routines, gradually increasing complexity or intensity as consistency develops. This approach reduces resistance, builds confidence, and strengthens the likelihood of lasting integration, ensuring that systems remain effective and scalable over the long term. Finally, mastering habit formation equips listeners with the knowledge, structure, and discipline necessary to sustain systems, produce consistent results, and create a foundation for long-term success. By embedding processes into automatic behaviors, individuals transform intention into reliable action, turning strategies into practice and ensuring that every day contributes meaningfully to measurable growth, achievement, and the realization of their larger goals. Chapter 4. Tracking and Feedback, Measuring Systems to Maximize Effectiveness. In this chapter, titled Tracking and Feedback, Measuring Systems to Maximize Effectiveness, we explore how monitoring performance, evaluating outcomes, and using feedback loops allows individuals to optimize their systems, ensure progress, and refine habits, while emphasizing that measurement is the bridge between effort and predictable results. Without tracking, even well-designed systems can falter, because it becomes difficult to identify inefficiencies, adjust routines, or recognize when processes are deviating from desired outcomes. By establishing clear metrics, benchmarks, and methods for evaluating system performance, listeners gain insight into both strengths and weaknesses, enabling proactive improvement and reinforcement of behaviors that drive consistent results. The narrator emphasizes that feedback loops are essential because they create a continuous cycle of observation, analysis, and adjustment, ensuring that systems evolve in response to changing circumstances, new information, or emerging challenges. By regularly reviewing data on actions, outputs, and outcomes, listeners can determine what is working, what requires refinement, and what can be eliminated or delegated to improve efficiency. Feedback loops also cultivate self-awareness, reinforce accountability, and maintain alignment between daily actions and long-term objectives, ensuring that systems remain effective even as goals or contexts shift over time. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that measurement is not limited to quantitative metrics, because qualitative factors such as satisfaction, engagement, and mental clarity also influence the effectiveness of systems. Tracking both objective outputs and subjective experiences allows listeners to refine systems holistically, ensuring that routines support not only results but also sustainable energy, focus, and motivation. By incorporating reflection alongside quantitative tracking, individuals strengthen insight into the interaction between habits, performance, and outcomes, creating a richer understanding of what drives success. Another key insight lies in iterative improvement, because no system is perfect from inception. Tracking results highlights patterns, inefficiencies, or bottlenecks that can be addressed through small, deliberate adjustments. Listeners are encouraged to view feedback as a tool for refinement rather than criticism, applying insights incrementally to optimize processes, improve execution, and enhance consistency. This approach ensures that systems remain dynamic, effective, and aligned with evolving goals, while fostering a mindset oriented toward continuous improvement. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that measurement transforms systems from static frameworks into living processes capable of adaptation, growth, and self-correction. By embedding structured tracking and evaluation, listeners can anticipate challenges, respond intelligently to deviations, and maintain confidence that their actions produce predictable results. Feedback loops create resilience, reduce wasted effort, and reinforce accountability, ensuring that progress is visible, measurable, and actionable rather than dependent on abstract outcomes or fluctuating motivation. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the capacity to monitor performance rigorously, apply insights constructively, and refine routines in ways that enhance both efficiency and effectiveness. Tracking ensures that every action, habit, and process contributes meaningfully to the system, while feedback provides the information necessary to optimize performance continuously. This approach empowers individuals to transform trial-and-error learning into deliberate system improvement, turning small adjustments into compounding gains over time. This chapter also highlights the importance of celebrating milestones and acknowledging progress, because measurement is not solely about identifying weaknesses or inefficiencies. Recognizing incremental achievements reinforces motivation, validates effort, and strengthens the neural pathways associated with discipline and habit formation. Celebrating progress within feedback systems ensures that momentum is maintained, engagement is sustained, and the system continues to produce consistent results over the long term. Finally, mastering tracking and feedback equips listeners with the tools to maintain systems that evolve, adapt, and optimize themselves through structured evaluation. By continuously measuring performance, applying insights, and refining routines, individuals create processes that remain effective, resilient, and aligned with objectives, ensuring that consistency, results, and long-term success are predictable outcomes of deliberate, disciplined action. Chapter 5: Environmental Design: Structuring Your Space to Support Systems. In this chapter, titled Environmental Design: Structuring Your Space to Support Systems, we explore how intentionally shaping your physical and digital environments enhances adherence to systems, minimizes friction, and maximizes productivity, while emphasizing that consistent success depends not only on mindset and habits but also on the conditions in which actions occur. The environment acts as both a Q&A constraint for behavior, because surroundings influence focus, motivation, and decision-making, often unconsciously guiding how energy is spent. By designing spaces that encourage desired behaviors and reduce obstacles to execution, listeners learn to create conditions where systems function seamlessly, requiring less conscious effort to maintain consistency and ensuring that processes are executed reliably over time. The narrator emphasizes that environmental design is effective because it leverages context to automate behavior, transforming intention into action with minimal resistance. Simple adjustments such as organizing workspaces, eliminating distractions, placing tools or resources within reach, or using reminders and prompts create structures that reinforce systems. By aligning physical and digital environments with goals, listeners reduce cognitive load, conserve energy, and increase the likelihood of executing processes consistently. The design of an environment, therefore, becomes a silent but powerful partner in maintaining system adherence. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that cues and triggers embedded in the environment can direct behavior automatically, because habits are often activated by contextual signals rather than conscious decision-making. Strategic placement of reminders, materials, or prompts ensures that desired behaviors are initiated reliably, while reducing the reliance on willpower or intermittent motivation. Listeners are encouraged to analyze their environments critically, identifying friction points that hinder execution and introducing cues that facilitate seamless performance, ensuring that systems operate with minimal conscious effort. Another key insight lies in minimizing distractions and friction, because environments cluttered with interruptions, irrelevant stimuli, or competing tasks decrease focus, reduce adherence to processes, and increase cognitive load. By removing unnecessary clutter, establishing boundaries, and prioritizing spaces for specific types of work or activities, listeners create conditions in which desired behaviors become the default choice. Environmental simplification enhances efficiency, supports habit formation, and reinforces the consistency required to maintain systems over time. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that environment design amplifies the effectiveness of systems, because even the most well-constructed routines can fail if conditions do not support their execution. By structuring surroundings strategically, listeners create a framework that encourages action, reduces reliance on motivation, and fosters a state of flow in which processes are executed smoothly and consistently. The environment, when designed intentionally, functions as a facilitator of success rather than a passive backdrop, reinforcing behaviors that drive measurable results. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the capacity to modify both physical and digital spaces to align with goals, reduce resistance to action, and support the sustainable implementation of systems. Environmental design ensures that energy is directed toward high-value behaviors. Opportunities for distraction are minimized, and adherence to processes becomes natural and automatic rather than dependent on fluctuating willpower. This approach strengthens the link between intention and execution, transforming systems from abstract plans into reliable, daily performance. This chapter also highlights the role of reinforcement, because consistent environmental cues strengthen habit formation and create feedback loops that embed processes more deeply into behavior. By structuring spaces that reward engagement, provide reminders, and signal priorities, listeners can accelerate adherence, maintain momentum, and ensure that systems continue to function effectively even during periods of distraction, fatigue, or stress. Finally, mastering environmental design equips listeners with the tools to create supportive contexts that enable systems to operate reliably, enhance focus, and maximize efficiency. By shaping surroundings to reinforce habits, minimize friction, and encourage deliberate action, individuals ensure that their systems are consistently executed, producing predictable results, sustained progress, and long-term success. Chapter 6. Motivation and Accountability, Sustaining Discipline Within Systems. In this chapter, titled Motivation and Accountability, Sustaining Discipline Within Systems, we explore how to maintain engagement, commitment, and consistent execution over the long term, while emphasizing that systems succeed not merely through design but through the sustained discipline and reinforcement mechanisms that keep them operational even when motivation fluctuates. Motivation, while valuable, is inherently variable and cannot be relied upon alone to ensure consistent action, because emotional highs and lows, external stressors, and fatigue can diminish drive. Systems, combined with accountability strategies, ensure that progress continues regardless of transient motivation, allowing actions to remain predictable and results to be consistently achieved. The narrator emphasizes that accountability acts as an external reinforcement for internal systems, because public commitment, peer support, or performance tracking introduces consequences, feedback, and social pressure that maintain adherence. By establishing structures that monitor progress, whether through mentors, collaborators, metrics, or self-reporting, listeners create conditions in which lapses are immediately visible, habits are reinforced, and routines remain intact. Accountability not only ensures adherence to processes but also provides guidance and reflection, allowing systems to be continuously optimized while maintaining momentum toward long-term objectives. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that intrinsic motivation can be amplified and stabilized by aligning systems with purpose, values, and meaningful outcomes. When daily actions are connected to personal or professional significance, adherence becomes more natural, engagement increases, and routines are executed with greater focus and intentionality. Listeners are encouraged to link habits, routines, and systems to larger goals or personal vision, ensuring that each action carries context and meaning beyond mere mechanical repetition. This alignment strengthens commitment and makes the system self-reinforcing, reducing the risk of disengagement over time. Another key insight lies in designing accountability mechanisms that are both consistent and adaptable, because rigid structures can become burdensome while overly loose systems fail to reinforce behavior. Combining measurable metrics with regular reflection and adaptive feedback allows listeners to maintain commitment while adjusting processes for effectiveness. Peer accountability, mentoring, or progress reporting provides additional reinforcement, while self-assessment ensures that systems remain aligned with personal objectives and evolving circumstances. This multi-layered approach strengthens discipline, resilience, and focus within systems. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that discipline is not merely about willpower, but about creating structures that make adherence inevitable. By coupling well-designed systems with motivation strategies, and accountability frameworks, listeners transform daily effort into reliable results, making consistency a predictable outcome rather than a variable dependent on mood or circumstance. Systems supported by accountability mechanisms produce compounding progress over time, ensuring that every day contributes meaningfully to long-term success. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the ability to maintain engagement, monitor progress, and reinforce habits even when faced with distractions, fatigue, or competing priorities. Accountability and motivational alignment create a feedback loop in which success begets momentum, further reinforcing adherence and embedding processes into daily life. This combination allows systems to operate with reliability, ensuring that consistent effort translates into measurable achievement and long-term growth. This chapter also highlights the role of reflection in sustaining accountability because evaluating outcomes, analyzing performance, and adjusting strategies strengthens both systems and personal discipline. Reflective practice ensures that routines remain aligned with objectives, supports continuous improvement, and enhances awareness of progress in areas needing refinement. By integrating motivation, accountability, and reflection, listeners maintain the mental and structural conditions required for consistent execution and results. Finally, mastering motivation and accountability equips listeners with the strategies, habits, and systems necessary to sustain disciplined action over time. By creating frameworks that reinforce adherence, connect effort to meaningful outcomes, and incorporate feedback, individuals ensure that systems remain effective, reliable, and aligned with long-term goals, transforming consistent action into predictable and sustainable success. Chapter 7. Scaling and Optimization: Refining Systems for Greater Impact. In this chapter titled Scaling and Optimization, Refining Systems for Greater Impact, we explore how to expand, refine, and enhance existing systems to produce more significant results over time, while emphasizing that effective systems are not static but dynamic frameworks that improve as they are evaluated, adjusted, and scaled. Scaling begins with analyzing the current system to identify which routines, habits, and processes are producing the greatest results. Because understanding the strengths and limitations of existing frameworks allows listeners to focus effort where it has the highest leverage. By measuring performance, tracking outcomes, and reviewing processes, individuals can determine which elements can be amplified, delegated, automated, or enhanced to maximize efficiency and effectiveness. The narrator emphasizes that optimization requires deliberate refinement because even well-designed systems contain inefficiencies, redundancies, or friction that limit impact. By iteratively testing modifications, removing obstacles, and streamlining routines, listeners ensure that each component functions as efficiently as possible while contributing proportionally to overall objectives. Small, continuous improvements compound over time, strengthening the system and allowing consistent results to grow in magnitude without proportionally increasing effort or complexity. Optimization transforms systems from adequate structures into high-performing frameworks capable of producing substantial, reliable outcomes. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that scaling requires strategic prioritization, because not all processes or habits are equally impactful. By identifying high-leverage actions, those with the greatest effect relative to effort, listeners can focus resources on routines that drive measurable growth while reducing attention on low-value tasks. Prioritization ensures that expansion does not dilute effectiveness, but rather enhances results by concentrating energy, attention, and resources on what truly matters, reinforcing the compounding benefits of disciplined action. Another key insight lies in automation and delegation, because scaling often depends on extending system capabilities beyond personal effort. Delegating routine tasks, leveraging technology, or automating repetitive processes allows listeners to maintain focus on high-impact activities while increasing system output and consistency. Automation ensures that processes remain reliable even during periods of increased demand, while delegation enables expansion without overburdening the individual, creating scalability without sacrificing precision or quality. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that systems, when optimized and scaled, produce results that grow exponentially rather than linearly. By systematically refining and expanding routines, integrating automation, and prioritizing high-leverage actions, listeners amplify the impact of consistent behavior, turning structured processes into powerful engines of achievement. Scalable systems ensure that consistent effort compounds effectively, generating increasing returns over time while reducing reliance on willpower, motivation, or reactive decision-making. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the ability to evaluate systems critically, implement iterative improvements, and expand routines strategically to achieve greater results without increasing complexity or effort proportionally. Optimization strengthens the link between action and outcome, enabling individuals to extract maximum value from existing processes while maintaining focus, clarity, and consistency. This approach transforms disciplined action into predictable, scalable performance that accelerates progress toward both short-term and long-term objectives. This chapter also highlights the role of monitoring and adjustment in sustainable scaling, because even refined systems require ongoing evaluation to remain effective. Tracking key performance indicators, assessing efficiency, and adapting routines to changing circumstances ensures that scaled systems continue to produce reliable results, maintain alignment with goals, and reinforce disciplined behavior. A responsive approach allows systems to evolve naturally, increasing capacity and effectiveness over time without losing integrity or focus. Finally, mastering scaling and optimization equips listeners with the strategies, tools, and mindset necessary to expand the impact of their systems, increase efficiency, and produce compounding results. By continuously refining, prioritizing, automating, and adapting routines, individuals create high-performing frameworks capable of generating consistent, predictable, and increasingly significant outcomes, ensuring that long-term success is the natural consequence of disciplined, deliberate, and optimized action. Chapter 8. Integration and Lifestyle Systems as the Framework for Predictable Success. In this chapter, titled Integration and Lifestyle Systems as the Framework for Predictable Success, we explore how combining all elements system design, habit formation, tracking, environmental alignment, accountability, and scaling creates a cohesive lifestyle in which consistent results emerge naturally, while emphasizing that success is not an occasional event but a byproduct of deliberate, structured processes integrated into daily life. Integration begins with aligning systems to both short-term routines and long-term objectives, because when each action reinforces broader goals, effort becomes intentional, measurable, and cumulative. Listeners are encouraged to review all aspects of their systems, identify interdependencies, and ensure that processes, habits, and environmental cues work synergistically to produce predictable outcomes. The narrator emphasizes that lifestyle integration requires reflection and intentional planning, because systems function best when they are not isolated but interconnected across multiple domains of life. By structuring routines that support health, productivity, learning, and relationships, listeners create a holistic framework that sustains performance, reduces friction, and maximizes leverage of effort. Integration ensures that each component of daily practice, whether a habit, feedback loop, or environmental adjustment, contributes to a unified strategy, reinforcing consistency, resilience, and continuous growth over time. One of the most significant lessons from this chapter is that integrating systems into a lifestyle transforms effort from sporadic action into automatic execution, because when processes become habitual, embedded in context, and supported by environment and accountability, results are no longer dependent on fluctuating motivation or willpower. Listeners learn that consistency is achieved by creating structures that guide behavior naturally, allowing high-quality execution to become the default mode of operation rather than a product of conscious exertion. Another key insight lies in the synergy of system elements, because the impact of combined processes, habits, tracking, and scaling is greater than the sum of individual components. For example, well-designed routines are reinforced by environmental cues, optimized through measurement, sustained by accountability, and amplified through scaling, creating compounding effects that accelerate progress toward long-term objectives. Recognizing and harnessing these interactions ensures that systems remain resilient, efficient, and capable of producing increasingly significant results over time. The importance of this chapter lies in demonstrating that long-term success is rarely the product of isolated decisions or fleeting motivation. It is built through the integration of multiple, interrelated systems that guide behavior consistently and predictably. By embedding processes into daily life, creating feedback mechanisms, and reinforcing habits through environmental design and accountability, listeners create conditions where success becomes an inevitable outcome rather than a matter of chance. Systems, when fully integrated, serve as the scaffolding that transforms discipline, effort, and focus into measurable and repeatable achievement. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the capacity to manage complexity, align behavior with objectives, and create a self-sustaining lifestyle in which systems operate reliably across all domains. Integration provides clarity, reduces decision fatigue, and ensures that daily actions reinforce long-term outcomes, allowing consistency, growth, and measurable progress to become habitual. This approach minimizes wasted effort and maximizes the predictive power of structured routines, habits, and processes. This chapter also highlights the importance of flexibility within integration, because systems must remain responsive to changing goals, environments, and circumstances. Periodic reflection, adaptation, and optimization ensure that integrated systems continue to function effectively over time, reinforcing reliability, resilience, and momentum. By combining stability with adaptability, listeners create a lifestyle that is both structured and capable of evolving to meet emerging challenges and opportunities. Finally, mastering integration and lifestyle equips listeners with the tools, mindset, and structure to achieve predictable success consistently. By combining systems, habits, tracking, environmental design, accountability, and scaling into a unified framework, individuals create an ecosystem of performance in which consistent action, deliberate progress, and measurable results emerge naturally. Through integration, success is no longer a distant goal but a predictable consequence of living within the structure of thoughtfully designed, disciplined, and optimized systems. Conclusion: building consistency through systems. As we conclude systems over goals, the secret to consistency and success, it becomes clear that lasting achievement is not the product of fleeting motivation, sporadic effort, or lofty goals alone, but of deliberate, repeatable processes that guide daily behavior and produce predictable outcomes over time. Over the course of these 8 chapters, you have explored why systems outperform goals, how to design and implement effective routines, the role of habit formation, tracking and feedback, environmental design, accountability and motivation, as well as scaling and integration of systems into a cohesive lifestyle. You have seen that when daily actions are structured, measured, and refined systematically, success becomes inevitable, and progress is continuous, compounding, and resilient to setbacks or fluctuations in external conditions. By internalizing these principles, listeners gain the tools to convert intention into execution, ensure consistency in performance, and transform long-term objectives into tangible results. The benefits of systems over goals are profound: reduced stress, greater clarity, minimized reliance on motivation, and sustainable progress that builds momentum naturally and predictably. If this audiobook has inspired you to rethink how you pursue success, start today by designing a small, repeatable process that aligns with your most important objective and commit to executing it consistently. Follow Freema Audiobooks for more insights into productivity, habit formation. Subscribe to access guidance on building routines, tracking progress, and creating systems that reinforce long-term achievement while reducing reliance on willpower alone. Leave a review to support the mission of helping listeners cultivate consistency, focus, and sustainable success, and share this audiobook with anyone seeking to replace fleeting motivation. With dependable systems, remember, success is not a distant goal, but a predictable outcome of disciplined processes repeated daily. And by applying the principles outlined here, you can transform consistency into accomplishment, turning effort into lasting achievement.